Kuphina kuphi emakhaya amadolobheni aseComplasta khona ke lapho ubukela khona SABC 1 sanamukela ke bekunene lehleli Yilungelo Lakho, it's your right, your leading consumer affairs TV show. Silethela ke lehlelo kumahamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for show. Mina ke ngisimpiye Ngcongwane kanti ke leli Yilungelo Lakho asingene endzabeni yethu namhla. Claiming for injuries suffered, be it in a motor vehicle accident or medical negligence, is quite a complicated process. That's why so many victims rely on the services of an attorney to get a satisfactory outcome. And most victims certainly get a decent award from the courts, sometimes over R1 million. But before celebrating, remember that every turn of the legal process is not free. And after your lawyer has deducted every penny, you'll be left with, a sobering reality. Now, today on the show, we'll look at all that is involved. Now, personal injury attorney Bangiso Mhlabeni now joins us via Skype to help us understand the process. He also joined by Nothemba George. She's also a personal injury lawyer. But Nothemba, I'm going to start with you. Sagumule hlele sawubona mama.
Ngiyabonga.
Asasiqale ke ngeprocess yekulodja iclaim. It may seem that it's a pretty straightforward matter, yet it's not. Ngicela uchazele kabanti ke all the steps that are involved.
Is that involved? Iclaim the first thing ekufanele uyithi hospital records zeclaim. Hospital records zizokunika i-ID ilimele kanjani. Ulimala uthola ukuthi awuphu uthola mhlambi ulimele wabe i-GPS yakho awukuphe esibhedlela awuphile iponto yokuqala hospital ngoba umuntu ulimele kangakanani. Uncedeke wonke umuntu olimele umarried una-marriage to ungalimala kangakanani naxa
Okay. Nothemba, ungathi ke sinebulukhunyana ke kukuva man sitawuzama ukuthi sizame ukukuthinza ke kulelinye ilayini ngoba lelakho ngathi alivakali kahle ke. Let me also welcome our next guest. Sinabangiso Mhlabeni. He's also a personal injury lawyer. Bangiso siyakumela ehleleni sawubona baba.
Sawubona Mhlekazi.
Yebo siyaphila kakhulu baba. Bengisakhuluma ke na Nothemba George lapha kusasichazele ke ngama steps noma ke ma processes ekulonja injury claim. Lomunye ke angathi ke ilula le process kepha ke it's not. So just take us through all the intricacies involved in lodging a claim.
Yona i-claim personal injury ayikho lula kakhulu. Because firstly fanele umuntu uassess i-injury yomuntu ukuthi ulimele kangakanani. And fanele ube ulimaze imoto. And then for you to be able to claim, you must also check ukuthi kubani ebe-fault. Were you at fault or is it the other car that was at fault? Ngoba i-road accident fund, it ensures umuntu nxa kalimele against a motor vehicle accident. So for thina as lawyers, we must first identify ukuthi ubuyi-passenger, ubuyi-driver, ubuyi-pedestrian kuhamba ngenyawo or kuzenjani ukuthi ulimale. Because if we driver, sometimes you have the responsibility to keep a lookout. So a claim may be easily repudiated if we are at fault to driver, because that will cause the accident. But sometimes if you are equally engineers, is motor too. Ungaba driver, but in so we have to ascertain those. By doing that, find a swift information, including my accident reports. She consulted now, she joined the accident report, what happened in the accident scene. And witnesses basically on the scene. And then thereafter, she joined and looked now ulimele kangakanani. So the accident hospital records from esibhedlela, and then sifumana yonke nama X-rays ukuthi uphuke phi ngoba usually not every person of when a car accident is eligible to claim. Lately, kukho lento bayibiza i-assessment abayenzayo ukuthi ukulimaleni kwakho you must at least be injured with percentage about 30% of your bodily injuries. So that is being assessed by a doctor. A doctor ends the report you meet the minimum 30% requirement, therefore ungakwazi ukuthi usubmit a claim yakho. But if you a scratch or sometimes they'll say you don't qualify for a claim from the road accident fund.
Yeah,
So
it leads to my
lawyer,
next question there, Mr. Mhlabeni, ukuthi which injuries are claimable? Ngoba lomunye angathi ngilimele ebhozo, lomunye athi ngiphuke umuno, lomunye athi ke ngiphuke umkhono. So are all injuries entitled to a claim?
No, not all injuries. There's a formula abayisebenzisayo doctor abayibiza whole person impairment, WPI. And then basebenzisa some calculations. Because some serious injuries like broken bones, head injuries that you have to lie esibhedlela for amalanga athile. But if injury when you're bumped by a car, you may not qualify, or injuries about whiplash. So you don't qualify to have a claim. So you must have at least serious injuries, which some of them lead to broken bones, or you lose your ability to work again. If then we have to do that assessment and do the calculations. Before the accident. If after the accident, then you are entitled to a claim because Apple will lose what you call earnings or income, so you are able to claim for that.
So, Mr. Mhlabeni, nginalo yini mine uthola ukuthi ngilimele engotini yemoto, nginalo yini ilungelo lekusho ukuthi cha ngiva ngathi dokotela underestimate the extent of the injury. Ngakhona nikusho ukuthi no maybe miscalculated the extent of the injury. Ngakhona kusho ukuthi cha lobhlungu buviwa ngimi and futhi ke in the aftermath kutawuviwa ngimi and banginike imali lencane. Can I lodge that complaint?
Yes, we are able to do that. Most of the time it is once we a report from the first doctor, say Tata she's a good doctor that we appoint our own doctors. Where we start with what we call an orthopedic surgeon. If we put a matambo, then orthopedic surgeon they report, I could assess as what we call a medical legal assessment or examination. From this medical legal examination, we will test, assess, and then he or she will give us a report. According to his or own opinion, or which is a medical opinion or expert opinion, you qualify for the compensation for so much. Okay. And then we're able then to use that report to counter the report your Dr. Yilungelo Lakho to say, no, our doctor says our client has got a better claim and this is what our client is entitled to receive. Okay. And even the orthopedic, I recommend other specialists, if there are other losses that they have suffered, before you submit a claim, also consult, let's say, for example, you made a candle in talk. Maybe you must also consult a neurosurgeon and neurologist, assess brain damage, or you'll be able to function properly according to nerves that were damaged. So these doctors, some specialists, where they don't have expertise, but I also recommend that you must also look at these specialists.
Okay, Mr. Mhlabeni, please stay on the line. Sitawuqhubeka nenkulumo yethu emva kwelekhefu. Mbokeli kwamanje sesisishele ngasetolo sitawubuya khona nyalo. Leli Yilungelo Lakho. Welcome back. Yilungelo Lakho ke tincingo tethu sesivuliwe ke bekunene ukuthi nawe ubambe noma ke ubeke umbono wakho ke. Our participation lines are on your screens right now, 0117146918 noma ke 0117146919. Ungasithumela futhi ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za. Ungaphinda usithole futhi ku social media ikakhulu kade ke iFacebook. Namhla ke bekunene sikhuluma nge-personal injury nekuthi ke nangabe uyaclaima what really goes there. I mean what really takes place and all the processes involved ku-claim nangabe uclaima through ummeli noma ke uyadiclaimela wena. Namhla ke kuleli hlelo lethu sina bameli ke lababili ke personal injury lawyers Bangiso Mhlabeni kanye ke naNothemba George. Will try to re-establish connection with Nothemba in just a moment. Kepha ke kwamanje sina Bangiso Mhlabeni. Baba Mhlabeni siyakumukela ehlelweni baba.
Yilungelo Lakho. And
Hi, Mr. Mhlabeni. We are struggling. If you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, there we go. There we go. Just before we enter that ad break, we're just taking us through the processes involved, involving claiming for an injury. You told us about the professionals that are involved, doctors, lawyers. What really goes on there, and what are the kinds of conversations that I have with a lawyer?
The first conversation if uzokunceda nge-claim, how are you going to be able to pay? Because sometimes ufumana ukuthi abantu abakwi-involved kwi-accidents abanamali, there are other passengers or there are other children, and even those abasebenzayo, they may not have all the costs zokuthi bangayincur ama-legal costs and pay as they go. So usually advise abantu bethu ukuthi let's rather enter into what we call a contingency fee agreement. And kule contingency fee agreement, it means that now as a lawyer, I will do the work and I will do or pay or incur all the costs, pay the doctors. If the claim is successful, then I'm entitled to what we call a 25% fee from what I recover from the reduction fund. But if the claim is not successful, then I cannot claim anything from you. So that's what contingency fee is. So it's based on the successful claim against the reduction fund. So usually then, so sign a contingency fee agreement, sign a power of attorney in the client, and then ask niggas all the costs to get the medical costs, to get the accident report from the traffic department, and all the other documents that we may need from the police. So normally those documents must be signed by the before I can close the claim. And now the client must choose whether a contingency fee agreement or uzozibhatalela, and we will claim as per the normal process of the website. So a statement of account as we go.
Okay. Bosakhuluma-ke nge-contingency arrangement, na ungasichazela-ke kabanti in layman's terms lo mehluko emkhathini kwe-common law ne-contingency arrangement law as it were. Nekuthi-ke Mhlabeni, on what basis do lawyers contract with a cashless claimant in South Africa?
This contingency fee arrangement is based on the Contingency Fee Agreement Act. Lomthetho was established to assist abantu who cannot afford to pay legal costs. So what the Act says is that Na and my client must agree with it. The claim would be based on who is successful recovery or successful settlement of the claim. So if claim yakona ayikho successful, as per ukuthi singayiprove claim yakona and siyayiluza the claim, cannot go to my client and say you need to pay my legal cost. So what it says is I will take it based on the prospects of what it is to succeed at the claim and do everything in my power to succeed. If it doesn't succeed, it is the risk I have taken to make, and I should have made those assessments. This will succeed or not. So I'm client meeting, maybe, because onset in understanding your client cannot afford to legal costs. So because like I will recover from the claim when it is successful.
Nangabe Mhlabeni uthi as a lawyer you will bear the honors of bearing the costs. Nangabe ke i-client iyayiluza ke leyo case leyo noma ke iyayiluza leyo claim leyo ke. Ukhona ke lo mnyelo wangitshela ukuthi lawyers charge a bit higher to accommodate that risk should the client or should the lawyer lose that particular claim. Is that correct?
If they do that, they shouldn't. It's not correct, Baba. The contingency fee is regulated The Act says the maximum we can claim is 25%.
Okay.
So it's in the Act. So we can't say more than 5% of that we recover. I know there are lawyers in the past who have more than 25%, but they've been taken to court and taken to the society. Some of them have been struck off the roll, and some of them they have been arrested for overreaching their clients.
Okay. All right, please stay on the line, Baba Mhlabeni. We'll certainly continue our discussion after this. Kwamanje, let me welcome our other guest. Now, Nothemba George, she's also a personal injury lawyer. Nothemba, sagumole hlelani sawubona.
Sawubona baba.
Okay, we tried, chatting to you a little earlier. In your view, all the processes involved, lodge a claim or an injury claim.
Ukulodge claim ufuna i-identity documents ze-client, ufune isibhedlele lapho ebelele khona, u-check eyona nto ebalulekile ku-hospital records ukujonga uba lo muntu ulimele kanjani, ngoba not wonke umuntu owa emotweni uyaqualifya uclaima. Oogqirha basebenzisa i-AMA guide ne-narrative test to ascertain uba lo muntu lona uzoqualifya na uclaima for i-general damages. I-general damages phecelezi izinto zezintlungu ozivayo mhlawumbi ukophuka lokufakwa kwentsimbi. So uye ujonge kuba umuntu wophukile na, noba wophukile uyifakiwe na intsimbi uye wa-operator. So kube lapho ke ubona uba inoba zikhona i-prospects zoba le claim lena ingasucceeda for i-general damages. I-claim iphinde ibe loss of earnings as well. Umuntu angalimala uthola uba wophukile, ngeli xesha asahleliyo akafumani imali emsebenzini. Abanye baye bangakwazi uphinde baphangele. So sijonga ezo zinto ezinjalo, sincediswa ngoogqirha. Oogqirha bafilisha izinto ekuthiwa zii-RAF4 forms. Kwezo RAF4 forms bazotsho uba le claim lena iyaqualifya either on narrative test baklikhe batsho. Otherwise umuntu xa engaqualifyi ke ngokwedoctor kwi-general damages uye ke kudlulelwe kwi-loss of earnings, kubona uba ikhona na i-loss abenayo yoba engaphangeli. Kodwa eyona nto ebalulekileyo into yoba ii-hospital records zomntu zibonisa uba wophukile wophuke kanjani na. Ube sewuhamba nayo ke for ukophuka uqala kugqirha okuthiwa yi-orthopedic surgeon, ugqirha wamathambo. Nguye ozo-assess i-client, abone enze i-report. Xa ngowentloko uya kwi-neurosurgeon, i-neurosurgeon izawugcwalisa la RAF4 form, itsho ubuzaza be-injury yentloko uba kunjani. Kuyaxhomekeka ke nakwi-injuries ezizobe zikweza hospital records. Bonke abagqirha bazofuna eza hospital records ngoba zizo ezichazayo ubuntu wafika ngalaa mini befumana i-accident enjani, ulimele njani. Bayifuna kakhulu oogqirha la first page yokuqala umuntu.
Okay, you are making a very valid point there, Nothemba, but please hold your thoughts. Ngoba ke kumele sithathe little careful. We'll certainly continue this discussion after the break. Bekunene asasiphinde sibele titolo siyabuya khona nyalo. Leli lungelo lakho. Sanamukela bekunene ke leli lungelo lakho. Namhla ke bekunene sikhuluma ke nge-personal injury ukuthi ke yini ema-processes la involved nabe ufuna ke ukuclaim, nabe ulimele emgwaqweni noma ke ulimele ke emsebentini, either workman compensation or indaba letingoda yasemgwaqweni. Namhla sinabameli ababili ke sina Nothemba George na Bangiso Mhlabeni. They are both personal injury lawyers. Now Nothemba isasemothu sesenathi. Okay. Earlier on, guys, kulmena Bangiso Mhlabeni ngenzaba ke risk. Nakuthi ke who takes the risk of a potential loss of a claim? Nangabe ke umeli on behalf of the client uyaloja leyo claim bese ke uyaluza ukuthi who will bear those costs?
I-costs sithi abathatha i-risk enkulu ngoba i-ogqirha into yokuqala abazikhuphi i-report singababhatalanga. So xa uthatha i-client yakho uyisa kugqirha, ugqirha uzoyi-assessa i-client. Abanye bafuna i-deposit ye-50% bengekayiboni noyibona i-client. Abanye bafuna imali yabo yonke iphelele, abanye bayibona i-client kodwa ngeke bakunike i-report ungabhatalanga. So angeke ke ukwazi uyiprova icase yakho e-road accident fund nakumagqwetha wayi-road accident fund ungenazi reports ngoba icase ize ibe ne-substance ikwazi into yoba iproveke funeka ube nezi reports even i-reports ezitshoyo uba kwalo muntu uyaqualifya ngoba ne-general damages zibalulekile. So sithi ke abaye kufuneka basibhatale zonke ezimali uba ngaba iclaim kuye kwathi kanti ekugqibeleni mhlawumbi kuye kwavela ezinye izinto ezenza into yoba iclaim i-reject or ingabhatali noba kwenzeke ntoni na ngelinye ixesha sometimes umuntu uthola uba kuthi apha ekuhambeni kwendlela omnye umuntu asweleke. So awuzukwazi ke ngokufumana mali ngoba abantu esibancedayo more than 90% ngabantu abangathathi ntweni abantu abasweleyo. So awuzukwazi ke ngoku uyothi emntwini osweleyo ndicela uba uzondibhatalela abagqirha akazuba nayo enye imali. Iphinde ne-agreement esingena kuyo i-contingency fee agreement it's a no win no fee basis. So ke ngoxa ungakwazanga uba uphumelele ide iclaim ibhatale uyaluza wena njengegqirha zonke ezo mali zonke nje kwanto ngaphandle kogqirha zonke yonke into ubuyenza akho nto ozoyifumana.
Ngaphambilini ke sikuve ukukhuluma ngema-general claims ukuthi ke yini lama-general claims nokuthi ke is there a standard fee for general claims ngoba lo munye ke utawuya kuleyo claim ade ukuthi nangabe ulimele kanje utawuthola imali lengaka. Is it really a blanket approach or every matter or every case is assessed on a case-by-case basis?
Or i-general damages yona bhukwani laa nto uba wophukile ufumanise ezo ntlungu uthole uba ufakwe intsimbi abantu bafakwe izicrews. So loo ntlungu leyo umzekelo mhlawumbi abanye abantu bophuka uthole uba ufakwa intsimbi estraight ngeke ukwazi ebomini bakho mhlawumbi uligoba idolo okanye ngeke ukwazi ubhuqa ebomini bakho. So kwi-general damages ubhatalelwa izinto ezinjalo. I-claim nje generally uclaimela i-general damages umntu kodwa zona i-general damages zinale qualification yoba funeka ube upasile nge-narrative test kangaba mhlawumbi wophukile bathi ogqirha wophuke ngendlela yoba uyaqualifya uba uziclaimele ezi-general damages. And then eyesibini yi-loss of earnings. I-loss of earnings yona ayina-qualification if upruvile uba i-employers zakho xa zifonela uba walimala ngomhlothile okanye wahlala 6 months ungabhatali emsebenzini awuzukwazi ke ngoku loo mali ube ne-loss of earnings bazoyibhala i-actuary ibhale calculate after uthethwe ne-employer yakho ngugqirha kubizwa into yoba yi-industrial psychologist. So yenye i-arm i-loss of earnings. I-general damages zona zezintlungu zonke ozivileyo noba i-loss of amenities of life uba mhlawumbi ubungumuntu wesport awusazuphinda ukwazi udlala eso sport. I-legislation ikhona ke yaserafu eye i-influence i-judges nathi magqwetha xa ngaba mhlawumbi sizama ukwenza i-settlement proposals before mhlawumbi i-trial dates ezosigayida uba mhlawumbi xa uphuke ngolu hlobo mhlawumbi edolweni yotsho ezantsi kwii-cases ezidlulileyo yimalini then iye i-inflate kwimali uba mhlawumbi loo case ibingo-2018 xa ku-2020 ithathelwe ingqalelo loo nto uba ngoku izinto zinyukile mhlawumbi inyuswe loo mali ke for izinga lika-2020. Sisebenzisa loo nto ke i-current legislation ekhoyo mhlawumbi uba yintloko kusojonga uba i-court kwi-severe brain damage ibikhona iimali ezikhutshwayo ziimali ezingakanani. Then eye-loss of earnings ke ngoku iya ngoba uburhola malini noba ungakanani noba uyozuphinda uphangele na ebomini bakho okanye uzawupenshela earlier than mhlawumbi 65 years. Kuxhomekeka ke ngoku ogqirha bazayibhala yonke ke ngoku loo nto ithi i-actuary ke ngoku xa icalculator i-influence ngabagqirha uba bathini upenshela nini or soze uphinde usebenze. Xa ungasoze uphinde usebenze ke i-award yakho iba nkulunyana kodwa still kuxhomekeka uba uburhola malini ekuqaleni.
Okay, Nothemba, please stay on the line. Mr. Mhlabeni, I want you to pick up on that point, le loss of earnings. Who determines the loss of earnings or the amount that I am entitled to as a result of future or potential loss of earnings? There's potentially a danger yokuthi ama loss of earnings abe understated ngoba abati ukuthi mina bengakha malini nakuthi ke potentially yimbi malini lebengamaka. Okay, Mr. Mhlabeni, please do press that unmute button on your device. Ngoba asikuva kahle ba.
It's not muted. Can you hear me?
Okay, sesiyakuva manje.
In lots of earnings,
Okay, Mr. Mhlabeni, let's leave it there for now. We'll try to re-establish connection with you in just a moment. Let's now take another break. Siyabuya khona nyalo. Lilungelo lakho. About the legal and the medical costs that are involved in lodging a personal injury claim. Elanini sina Bangiso Mhlabeni kanye na Nothemba George. They are both personal injury lawyers. But then before we go to them, let's take our first caller. Sina Thompson Ulai George. Sekumele hleleni sawubona. Yebo Thompson, kunjani baba?
Ngiyaphila futhi.
Siyaphila khulu baba. Khuluma nasi baba. What's on your mind?
Ngalimala engozini yemoto 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, wona ngihamba nge-wheelchair till today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
Manje ngathi ngiyaclaima kwathiwa udriver akaclaim.
Kwathiwani?
Kwathiwa udriver akaclaim.
Ungidriver ushayelela passenger.
Yeah.
How so kude nje wakuthola nje till today?
Angeza
Kude wakuthola ukuze kube namhla nje.
akukho ngakutholayo. Ngathola nje isibonelelo lesukahulumeni segrant kuphela.
Oh, okay. Siyabonga kakhulu ukushayela Thompson. We've got two lawyers, personal injury lawyers, but batawuzama ukukusita kule nkinga yakho. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Mhlabeni, I'm sure you've heard our caller. Utsike yena walimala nga 2005 and he got a permanent damage or injury. Uhamba nge-wheelchair njengoba sikhuluma ke namhla. Nakasiyoclaim abamtshela ukuthi driver akaclaim. Ingabe kuliqiniso lokho?
It depends. Good load driver, the accident was it a single motor vehicle or was it two? If it's a single motor vehicle, Django driver, and then involved with accident, you are expected to keep a proper lookout, to keep a control motor, and to be vigilant loud driver. So usually you don't get to be compensated because the law says you can only claim against the negligent driver. So this driver, if he's going to be negligent, he can't claim against himself because he cannot claim against a negligent driver. So if it was only one car, then he becomes the negligent driver, and he can't claim from the accident because he was one who was supposed to keep control of the motor, go to have a vigilant. That's what the law says. But if there were two cars, they could call any motor, and then what you only have to do as a driver from this car is to prove what we call a 1% negligence against the other car, the other driver. So once you prove that 1% negligence, then he's able to claim 100%. Or they can apportion it damages based on who is to be blamed. So what they do in terms of the apportionment of damages act, what the pair would who was wrong and to what degree was he or she wrong in the accident. So you sometimes get 50%, 60%, depending on which driver was to blame for the accident. So I'm not sure if Babu Thompson was involved in the accident whereby it was a single vehicle or by Z2.
Ngelisho ke akasekho ke elanini Thompson kepha and we don't have the details as yet. Kepha ke as a city one car was involved. Uthi ukhulumeke nge-negligence. Uthi ke who determines the negligence? Because not every expert was on the scene. Ndakuthi-ke, I mean, accidents happen to everyone. So who determines the negligence? And is it fair ukuthi bona bangabe compensated?
You see, road accident fund is a third-party liability claim. So it's a claim against a third party. If the good driver, I'm not the third party. I'm the affected party. So I must claim against a third party, another person who causes the accident. So if I causes the accident, I must then probably insure myself against that eventuality. But it doesn't cover people who causes accidents and claim for themselves.
Okay.
So it involves people who causes accident against the third parties. So it protects the third parties against what we call the insured driver, so, or the negligent driver. So Ubabu Thompson, if he was in a single vehicle, he is the driver whom he is insured, but is insured against causing accident against third parties, not against himself. So therefore, by its design, the Road Accident Fund claims based on the Road Accident Fund Act are only covering third parties, not the person who causes the accident, if it's a single motor vehicle.
Okay. Thanks for making that point, Mr. Mhlabeni. Now, Nothemba, what are your thoughts with regards to Thompson's issue?
Uba uyakhumbula bhuti ngike ndathetha nge-merits earlier. I-merits nje phecelezi into ethi i-RAF kwasekuqaleni nje i-liable na or ayikho liable for le claim. Into yoba ulimele kangakanani ilandela i-merits. So ndiyacinga i-case kaTata Thompson ifola kwezi claim uthola uba akana-merits. Ndiyacinga njengoba ebe-driver khangaphazanyiswe enye imoto ngoba ububu-driver at least kufuneka uphazanyiswe enye imoto. If ube yile moto ephazamisayo noba ulimele kangakanani awuzukwazi ukleyima. If ushwe i-curve yaba imoto yakho yodwa yenza i-accident wawubetha i-pole or ugajukelela itaya lemoto.
Okay, we seem to have lost Nothemba there, and she was making a very valid point, and I'm going to ask her to make that point again. Now, Mr. Mhlabeni, back to you. Nangabe mina I'm not happy with you as ummeli wami. Ngivanga sithi khona tinto longatendi kahle noma ke ngitsena ngibuka ema reviews kulo society. Ngeva ngathi khona lokushaya imandi la and sengifuna ke ku-withdrawa. I want you to withdraw your services. Can that happen, and what are the consequences of that?
Yes, withdrawal of mandate can happen almost any time before the claim is finalized. So, because you gave me the power of attorney, I must act on your behalf. You can withdraw the power of attorney by giving me what we call a termination of mandate, whereby it's in writing. You terminate my mandate in writing, and then I appoint a different lawyer. So in that termination of mandate, you will also indicate one of the going forward. So what I will do, what I'm entitled to is AMA costs for the legal service that I have assisted you up to the time when you terminate the mandate. So normally what we do, because I want to mandate at that time, we seek undertaking from the other lawyer who's taking over it. When the matter is settled, they will pay our costs at the time. And then we will do a statement of account, that account or an invoice that states to CNZ during the time and what is that the amount that you are owing us as our client. So you can terminate the mandate, but only before the matter is settled. Once the matter is settled, then there's no time to terminate because the mandate has been executed in full. What we are waiting for is the settlement or payment of the settlement. Yeah.
Because the reason I'm asking that, Mr. Mhlabeni, would see there's so many disputes that arise as a result of the costing. Nangabe minege I'm entitled to 1 million kule claim le, and utfola ukuthi ema cost akho anglo 1 million vele utfola ukuthi angisatholi lutho. I want you to break down all the costs that are involved in a client or rather in a claim.
Firstly, what we call legal costs. Legal costs is for professional services rendered. The advice engaging the other side using my legal expertise. It's called professional fees. You're the 25%. And then secondly, there's what we call legal costs. Legal cost is costs that we incur, we process. For example, to pay a doctor, actually to provide actuarial reports, it's a cost, it's a legal cost. So actually is a fully money upfront, I will pay for that amount. Sometimes it's between 6,000, now 20,000, just one report. And then we say better, Latina, because you don't have. So in terms of the agreement, we say we will pay when we recover it from the residence fund is a well of which. So it doesn't come to you as a client.
Please hold your thought, Babe.
Please
hold your thought. Please hold your thought. I want us to continue on that particular point. Sakumula futhi ke mbukeli ke namhla leli isiqephu sekugcina ke saleli hlelo namhla sikhuluma nge-personal injury claim nekuthi nawufuna ke kuloja i-claim wenda ini and all the medical and as well as legal costs that are involved in lodging a claim. Sinabangiso Mhlabeni kanye noThemba George, they are both personal injury lawyers. Now, Mr. Mhlabeni, you were just taking us through the costing and the costs that are involved on the lawyer's part, and which I suppose is the crux of a dispute between a lawyer and client. Khona ke lama client la khale ngekuthi ke lawyer bagcina sebabacharger for tincingo, bagcina babacharger for bo fax nebo petrol. Why is it that a client would need to pay for the admin fees of a lawyer? Because that seems to be the case.
In fact, all the clients, they pay for admin costs because these are the costs. We need to distinguish between illegal fees and legal costs. Legal fees is my professional advice and professional expertise. But my legal costs are the costs that I incur in the office to prove the claim on behalf of the client. And my costs include me paper, they include phone calls, they include me paying the records, they include me paying the traffic department for accident report, they include me paying my specialists to get the medical legal reports. Also, when we go to court, they include me paying the sheriff to issue summons and serve the summons, and they include me paying the advocate to represent the client to argue the matter at court. So the client does not have the money. I cannot have the money in advance. So now I incur the costs. So we call them legal costs. But the client doesn't pay me. I recover them from the reduction fund, those costs, or I recover them from, in terms of the court process. If the court award amount costs, then we get those costs because they're awarded by the court, and they get taxed by the taxing master. Okay. But our legal fees are also based on professional. I'm saying to you, I'm not going to prove to you, but I'll be working 27 times. But we agree with you. I'm entitled to a success fee of 25% when the claim is successful. But that 25% is not a blank check. Okay. But if the claim it's settled at a higher amount, like let's say 10 million, I cannot justify 25% to 10 million. So normally we agree to a justifiable amount, which does not take away the chunk of the money that the client is supposed to get. So that is the difference between legal costs and legal fees.
I guess that is the problem. Now, justifiable amount, and there is no fixed fee. Justifiable amount, and I suppose that is the crux for the dispute. Now, Nothemba, about the legal cost, the difference between the legal costs and the legal fees in terms of costing on the lawyer's part. You run a business. Obviously, there are certain overheads that are involved in lodging a claim. Overheads, and some clients have been complaining. Some are totally unreasonable. Where the clients find themselves having to pay for petrol, having to pay for phone calls, having to pay for fax, and all the documentation that is involved.
But amakhotha amaninzi ayasebenzise lo no fee basis, then basebenzise u-25%. Umzekelo kwi-million i-client izawufumana 750,000, then ilo ifumane i-250,000. Amanye abantu ke baye batshintshe bhuti naphakathi endleleni uthole umuntu usehafini nomsebenzi negqwetha for i-reason ezithile, mhlambi ahambe aye komnye umuntu naleyo ke ngoku ingayi-damage imali yakhe imcost ngoba ngoku kofuneka abhatele kabini elagqwetha la mhlawumbi la contingency fee ebeyisayine nayo akasazufumana mali. Uthole uba une-claims ke ngoku naye loo nto leyo ingenza ke ngoku uba umntu abe uyabhatala more. Amagqwetha nawo asebenzisa imali zawo ixesha elinintsi ukuthi ukwenza zonke ezinye izinto njengoba bendicacisile ekuqaleni ukwenza iclaim kuba bejonga uba iclaim izoba successful. Amaninzi asebenzisa lo 25%, kodwa ke zikhona ezinye mhlawumbi ii-contract ezingangenwa kodwa imajority yamaloya kakhulu especially kwi-road accident fund. Le contingency fee beyenzelwe abantu abangathathi ntweni ukuba nabo bayifumane i-justice, bangathi nxa bengenamali babe abakwazi kwa ukwenzelwa nto. Yayenzelwe abantu abanjalo. So baye bathathe njalo ke ixesha elininzi.
So what's your advice then for those who are totally uncomfortable with the outcome of a claim?
I-outcome ye-claim uyayicacisa ku-client uba kutheni u-accepte le mali, because nawe uligqwetha, even ijaji ephana e-court ipersuadwa zii-reports zoogqirha. Ngoba apha sithetha nge-health issue, umntu ulimele uaseswa ngoogqirha. I-actuary ngabantu abaqeqeshelwe ubala imali. So xa uligqwetha nawe i-settlement proposal yakho nawe suke uyibheyise kwinto ezithile, kwi-legislation, kwi-reports, awuvele uclaime nje. So xa ngaba i-under settlement andiyazi uba ingenzeka kanjani ngoba kwanto ekhutshwayo ikhutshwa ngokwemigaqo, kuyiwa ngee-personal circumstances zomntu. Umzekelo abantu mhlawumbi bangazifanisa uba ubani besilimele ngemini ethile, uyena ufumene imali enintsi kunam, kanti i-personal circumstances zabo zi-unique, nee-injuries abathe bazifumana zi-unique. Umzekelo umlenze mhlawumbi ubhatalwa kakhulu kunengalo ngoba umlenze uthwala umzimba wethu.
Okay.
Uthole uba mhlawumbi mna ndimncinci and bendirhola kakhulu nawe, wena ubusomdala usaziwa nakwiipension and urhola imali encinci kunam. So azikwazi ukhomperisheka bhuti kahle.
Okay, Nothemba siyabonga kakhulu ke kulelo phuzu lelo. Now Mr. Mhlameli, singakagqogqoti nje lehlelo ke, what's your advice to those who feel undercompensated and those get lebeva ngathi abasi comfortable kule outcome ye claim?
If you feel undercompensated, sometimes what we advise abantu to do is that get a second opinion, go to the Legal Practice Council. Maybe Law Society before, now it's the Legal Practice Council, and then ask them to look at your matter and give you an advice. So Legal Practice Council was review a matter and then advise accordingly. And then even when there's a dispute fees or costs, by intervene Legal Practice Council and give a recommendation as to what is the reasonable fee. But compensation from the reduction fund, remember, is based on the expert opinion. So Tina, as lawyers, we can only argue based on the expert advice if manai. For me to contest a report to your doctor, I need to bring another doctor. So we don't samsak our figures. Our figures must be able to be determined objectively by assessment, a specialist, including HR. If our helping assessment, HR, unfortunately, that person with your own expertise and own information, you get the assessment. Basically, information is this is what the client is expecting a pangela upper and a holy malengat. So if alcohol happy, unfortunately, you can go to the society, they can give you assistance.
All right, Mr. Bangiso Mhlabeni, now ke Nothemba George siyabonga kakhulu ke ukuhlanganyela nasi kuleli hlelo namhla ke bekunene sesifike emaphethelweni lethu lihlelo namhla ke ngiphinza ngibothi vakashitefu ngekuba nasi kuze kube ngimanje ngithanza bonga ke nani ukuthi ke nisijoine kuze kube ngimanje asihlangane futhi ke eviki lelitaku for yet another consumer affairs discussion. From Miss Mphiwe Ngongwane and the rest of the team, nisale kahle, wishing you all a great week. Bye bye.
Yilungelo Yilungelo lakho mngani wami.